Hey guys, what's up? It's Jeff. It's April 18th. Yeah, and I just want to make an update. Just recently passed my 8-month on T mark. In the way of stuff with hormones and that aspect of my life, everything's been pretty good. I'm terrible. I still need to go and get an MRI done. I don't know whether I mentioned this in other videos. I think I did, but before I started T, I had really elevated levels of prolactin, which is a hormone that really only affects pregnant women, to my understanding of it. And mine was within the range of a pregnant woman. When I got my blood work done around my 6-month mark, it actually increased even more, but my T was really high as well. So we've adjusted my dosages or whatever, and we've lowered it down, me and my endo, but he still thinks that I might have a tumor on my pituitary gland, and that might be causing all this excess prolactin shit in my system. So I need to get an MRI done. I still haven't done that, but when I do, I will be sure to update. Good times. But yeah, in the way of changes, I'm getting more facial hair. My voice was hurting me a lot like 2 weeks ago. I thought maybe it was dropping a bit more, but I think I just had a sore throat because it sounds the same to me. That's pretty much it. I feel like my weight's still moving around a lot because like I just got out of work and this dress shirt just feels like it doesn't fit me right anymore, where it used to fit me really well. I ordered a new binder, which is really tight. Forgot how stretched out my other ones are. But yeah, that's about it in the way of that. So since this is such a boring update, if I were to just cut it short right there, I figured I would make a video that is sort of obligatory that I have not done, which is how I knew I was trans. So without giving you all the gory details, let me first say that in many ways, my trans narrative is very similar to the typical trans narrative that we often hear, like by Chaz Bono or other famous transgender people, spokespeople, if you will. So, I mean, when I was little, I always felt like I was a boy. It was like no question in my head. I would go to sleep and I would imagine, much like kids imagine that their real parents are like, you know, royalty or something, and one day they're going to come and sweep you up. I imagine that one day I was going to wake up and I was going to be a boy, but not just any boy. In my head, I was this little boy named Kevin, whose parents were super cool, and they were just going to sweep me up, and I would go away, and I had it all figured out. I think I was obsessed with the name Kevin because I was really into Home Alone when I was a little kid. Macaulay Culkin, that whole spiel, and that character is named Kevin. And I was a handful myself from what I'm told when I was little, so I think that's why I really got attached to that name. And when I was like super little, you know, like 3, 4, 5, 6, that area, if I was ever playing any sort of like role play game with any of my friends, I was always like the male character. I played dad in house, that sort of thing. And none of my peers really questioned it because when you're that little, stuff like that doesn't matter. But all that said, on the outside, I was a tomboy very much, but I still had really long hair. I remember telling my mom I wanted to cut all of my hair off right before kindergarten, and she asked me if I wanted like a bob or something, and I was like, no, I want to look like my friend Timmy. And she like freaked out, and they cut my hair to about here, and for some reason I was happy with that, so I was just like, okay, cool, this works. But you know, it's insane to think about it, like how convinced and comfortable I felt, like, oh, I'm a boy, one day I'm gonna wake up and everything's gonna align, considering that I went to Catholic school and had to wear skirts and jumpers every day of my formative years. So it's always a little funny when I think about it like that. But yeah, so growing up at my elementary school, I was always one of the guys. I only had male friends. And then in 5th grade, I had to change schools. And coming in as a socially awkward, really tomboyish girl in a new environment in 5th grade was incredibly interesting because the guys had their set friendships. None of them wanted to be friends with me because, you know, girls have cooties. And the girls didn't really want to be friends with me either because I was not their standard girly girl model. So I did get picked on quite a bit in 6th and 7th grade. Well, a little bit in 5th, but I mean 6th grade was really bad, and people would just call me a man all the time, which bothered me because I knew that they were doing it as an insult, but there was a part of me that it really enjoyed it, which sucked. But then it just got to be too much. At a certain point, I was so depressed, I was starting to realize that I was coming to believe that I was not a man, and that, it really hurt every time they would say something like that. Obviously, I would just shut down and get more and more depressed. So, high school, long story short, I went to an all-girls high school, which was absolutely terrible, but it had a really excellent art program, and I knew that I wanted to pursue art, and it just had a lot of really good things going for it. The academics were really good, so I sucked it up, and there was a part of me that really thought going to this school would somehow turn me normal. I was hoping that that would happen. But my sophomore year of high school ended up coinciding with my first puberty. I was a late bloomer, which is a very good thing, I think, because I probably, no pun intended, would have killed myself if I had developed earlier, because my sophomore year I was incredibly depressed. As my body started changing, I didn't have a word for trans. Catholic school and a somewhat conservative Italian Catholic upbringing meant that I didn't even know what lesbians were. I didn't know what trans people were. I didn't know anything about it. So I got to high school and I started noticing girls and feeling really uncomfortable with my body. And everyone, these outside voices just kept telling me, well, this is normal for women to go through, to feel really insecure physically, and to just, hate their bodies. I really did believe that, okay, for a year or two, I did believe that this was just a coming of age thing that everyone went through, and that I would get through it, and once I got to the other side, I would be this happy, well-adjusted girl. So, my sophomore year of high school, I wasn't really picked on a lot, but I was picking on myself internally in that setting, so I was incredibly harsh on myself. And once I finally got to the point where I knew that my sexual orientation was definitively, I was attracted to women, I began identifying as a lesbian because that was pretty much all I knew. I mean, there were a couple gay girls at my school, and everybody sort of knew everyone that was bi or gay, so it just sort of happened that, these girls found out about me and found out about my girlfriend, and I just sort of fell into that identity. I never really chose it for myself, I just sort of was like, oh, okay, well, if you're telling me that's what I am, then that's what I am. By my junior and senior year of high school, though, I started coming out of that depression. I mean, that was a terrible time in my life, of just really self-hatred and self-abuse. It was really bad. So by my junior and senior year, I decided, well, things aren't just clearing up on their own. Clearly, I am not doing something right, and I need to try harder to be girlier. Oh, I dropped something. I need to try harder to be girlier, so I started, shaving my legs and doing my hair and trying to dress more feminine. I would never do makeup or anything like that, but I was trying, and they were small steps. And, I got a lot of compliments, so I was always sort of expecting that one day it would click, and I would feel, attractive or more importantly, comfortable in my own skin. And that just didn't happen. So then I went to college. Thankfully, not a single gender college. I went to a co-ed school. And it was not a religious school, which was also excellent, because after all those years of Catholic school, I couldn't handle it. So when I got to college, I said, you know what, fuck it. Clearly, I am not a feminine person. I joined the Rainbow Alliance, which was like a GSA on my college campus, but that was pretty whack, so I dropped out of that, and I just decided that I was going to do the androgynous thing for a while. Still had long hair, but I dressed very masculine, and I just tried to find what was comfortable. And what I found was that with every step I took towards being more and more masculine, the happier that I felt. But I was always very held back about pushing the envelope too much, because I still didn't really know what was wrong with me and why I couldn't just be happy as a lesbian. So my junior year of college, I was just browsing on YouTube, and as stupid as this says, like I've heard other trans people say, I found a page of a trans guy, and he was talking about his transition, and more importantly, actually, he was showing his chest, because he was post-op, and I saw that, and it was just like this light bulb of, oh my god, that's me, that's what I need to do, this is exactly what he was saying, I really identified with, and I knew. If I said junior year, that was actually my sophomore year of college, right towards the end. So then I panicked, and I went into total shutdown mode, and I thought that I was this freak. I mean, I remember coming out to my girlfriend and saying, I think that I'm actually a guy, I'm actually a dude. And then she was like, oh, let's talk about that. And literally the next day I was like, no, that conversation didn't happen. I don't know what's wrong with me. And I blamed it on gaining weight. I blamed it on all of this different shit. I just wanted to run from the problem. And I ran really well for 2 years, and I dropped like 40 pounds that I didn't really even need to drop. And once I lost all that weight, I remember I was like, okay, I'm good now, everything will be okay, and it just wasn't. And in the back of my head every day was, this is not the real problem. The real problem is that you're a dude, and you need to do something about it. And it was really scary for me. I remember feeling all of this worry and anxiety and doubt that I was making this terrible mistake, and I hadn't even done anything yet. So I saw a therapist for a couple of months she was general, and then I found like a gender specialist, and I started seeing her, and she was fantastic. And I realized that, this is just, this is what I have to do. This is just who I am. And I think in my head, partially because of my Catholic school upbringing and everything, I thought that this was some huge taboo thing, and that it was, it still is to many people, but to me it was as well. And a lot of the hurdle in my transition was just, understanding that it's okay to be who you are, and to embrace that and not be ashamed of that, because I was ashamed of it for like a good 6 years, and running from it for several too. So my parents found out right before graduation. They came to this awards dinner, and I came dressed very similarly to how I am now. And my mom had this nervous breakdown and asked me why I was dressing like that. And if I was a lesbian, if I was this, that, and the other thing, because my orientation was never talked about, ever. I mean, my parents had their suspicions, but... And so it was over the phone, which was not how I wanted to do it, but I just sort of said, hey, here's the deal. Had an hour-long conversation with my mom. I think that she was in shock. And then once it was out, though, I just felt this sense of relief, like, okay, like, now I really can be myself. It's not like I have to worry about my parents finding out or anything. I mean, it was awkward as all fuck once I got home after graduation, but we got through it. And over time, I've been coming out to more and more people, but I really, in that regard, I don't have a traditional coming out either. I mean, I work for an LGBT organization, so they don't care. If anything, they love that I'm trans, because I bring a new perspective on some things. And, I graduated, so it's not like I have to call up all my college friends and be like, by the way, I'm going by Jeff now. It's been really, really good. So, yeah. I knew I was trans ever since I was little, and I did run from it. So I thought it was really important for me to get that out there, because the vast majority of the narratives I see, people just know, and whether or not they pursue it right away or they wait a little bit, that just seems to be like the industry standard. I've had very few experiences where other trans people have been like, yeah, actually I knew, and I repressed, and then I went back, and then I repressed, and then I went super binary, like trying to be a girly girl or a trans woman trying to be hyper masculine. Like, usually there's one period of that, and then they move forward with their lives, whereas I had like 2 or 3. So yeah, so it's totally okay if you're confused or you're unsure, because I know that like, it's amazing what perspective can do. Like, looking now, I really was sure. But in that moment, I was totally terrified. I didn't know if hormones were right for me when I first started to address my being trans. You know, I didn't know if anything was right for me. And now it's like I'm in the process of changing my name, and all of my immediate loved ones know, and it just makes total sense. But yeah, so if you're watching this and you sat through this ridiculously long video, which I apologize for, just know that it's okay if you're unsure, and you'll figure it out. And there's no rush to figure it out. I mean, it took me a really long time. It's gonna take you a long time to figure it out, unless, you know, you just know, in which case, good for you. But yeah, so if you have questions, you can leave comments or send me a message or whatever. But yeah, like I said, this was a mammothly long video, and so I apologize for that. I blame it on having like 5 cups of coffee today. But yeah, so I'll update soon. Hope all's well.